There are reports, rumors, whatever you want to call it, going on about how the Pittsburgh Steelers are open to trading Diontae Johnson. Now, the original report said that you cannot classify Diontae Johnson as on the trade block, but that the Pittsburgh Steelers would be open to a trade if the right compensation arose. Is that the right word I'm looking for there?
I think arises maybe.
Arises. Thank you very much. And then there are more reports, more rumors, more speculation about how maybe Diontae Johnson doesn't even want to be in Pittsburgh anymore, that maybe he wants to go, and then the Steelers are kind of forced to move on. If you watch his social media, his Twitter account, he's just tweeting out, everybody's delusional. This is crazy. Kind of sounds like he wants to stay in Pittsburgh. You heard the news. You heard everything going on. We've talked about this before. We're going to talk about it again. Do you think it's more smoke than anything? I think the bigger picture here is, do you think Diontae Johnson wants out of Pittsburgh? And do you think the Steelers genuinely want to trade this guy as they enter the final year of his contract?
I don't think he wants out of Pittsburgh. That is just not the impression I've gotten. I think Diontae... I think Diontae believes in this team. I think he believes that they can do something here, and I think this is the place where he's really built his career, and so it feels comfortable. I don't really suspect that he wants out of Pittsburgh. I don't really know if I buy that. I think Diontae has a reputation, and sometimes that I don't know. I don't want to say it's a reputation for a reason, but there are, you can understand why people think certain things about him, but I don't think many of those things are really true. Like, I don't think he fits into the kind of the diva mold that I think people want to throw him into. Like you said, feel bad that he's got to, kind of watch this all from the sidelines. Like, I'm sure as these rumors come out, it's not directly, Mike Tomlin or Omar Khan talking to people saying, hey, yeah, we want to trade this guy. I'm sure it's a lot of speculation. I'm sure it's a lot of, oh, this could happen. But that doesn't really change the fact that if you're someone sitting there saying, oh, well, I might get shipped out at a moment's notice and I might find out on Twitter or social media or something like that. Like, that sucks. But no, I don't think he wants out. I think the Steelers are open to it. I think you listen to what Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan and Art Rooney have said all offseason, and they're not, I wouldn't call it a desperate position, but it is it's a pivotal offseason. I mean, it is for everybody, everyone in that organization, and this team has really done some soul searching, I think, and that has led them to the notion that, we've got to explore all options. We can't close the door on anything. If something has the potential to make us better, we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to the organization to consider that. So I don't think it's any more complicated than that. I don't think it's an indictment of how Diontae's played or his attitude or what he is in the locker room. It's just the Steelers are in a pretty unique spot. They're in the middle of a pivotal offseason, so they've got to do a bunch of soul searching and figure out how they can truly make this team better.
That part I agree with. I think that when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, they would accept a trade if the right trade came through, just because they can't sit around and, they can't sit on their thumbs and say, okay, well, look at here. This is what it is. This is our team. We're going to rock with this team no matter what. If an offer comes through that makes this team better, they're going to jump on that offer. I agree with that. But at the same time, they're not just going to trade Diontae Johnson. Like, anybody sitting around saying, oh, go get a 5th round pick for him. No. You're not trading Diontae Johnson you're not just trading Diontae Johnson just to trade Diontae Johnson. That makes absolutely zero sense. And it makes zero sense even to get a 5th round pick, because people will say, oh, well, you just get what you can out of them. Not when you're trying to win. If this team was a year ago and they were looking at it and saying, well, we don't have a quarterback. We probably don't have an offensive coordinator. Our offensive line is still shaky. We got all these question marks. Diontae Johnson could just go because then we could just stack draft picks. That makes some sense. This year, the way the Pittsburgh Steelers have gone about their offseason, you have to look at it and say, the Steelers are only going to trade Diontae Johnson if the perfect offer comes their way. When it comes to Diontae Johnson, I agree 100%. We have talked about this time and time again. This dude does not fit into the diva category. He's had some mistakes. Everybody has mistakes in the NFL. That happens all the time. Diontae gets caught doing some dumb things sometimes on the field, and for some reason he has built a reputation, and it happens. Like, there are players every single year where this fan base just latches on, and that is now the player that they do not like. And Diontae Johnson was one of those players. and he can never remove himself from being that player. As long as he is in Pittsburgh, he will forever be that player. So people want him gone. I don't think Diontae wants out of here. I mean, I don't blame him if he does. I look at it and say, if you're going to trade me to a team with a quarterback, sounds good to me. If you're going to trade me to a team that throws the ball properly, sounds good to me. I wouldn't even blame him there, but I don't think he's sitting around voicing to anybody that he doesn't want to be here or starting some drama or any of that. Now, when it comes to the trade compensation, you look at it, the people have tossed out a 5th round pick. 3rd round is like the magic number. Everybody keeps saying, oh, I think you could get a 3rd rounder for him. I think you could get a 3rd rounder for him. You look at a Diontae Johnson trade, what does it come down to in your mind? What do you think the magic number is, not only to be offered to the Steelers, but for the Steelers to actually say, yes, we will consider that?
Yeah, I think if you're the Steelers, you lead with, I want a day 2 pick. I think you could go as high as the 2nd, quite honestly. Deontay Johnson's good. I mean, I don't like, that's the thing. Like he had one of the more productive seasons of his career, probably the 2nd most productive season of his career, if I remember correctly. Last season, I know the no touchdown things, I think, sticks in people's heads, but this is a good player. So a day 2 pick, I think, would be where I'd start. If you're going any lower than that, I think if you're drifting into the 4th round or later, then I got to get 2 picks for him. And that even, I feel uncomfortable even with that. Like, my mind went first to, okay, give me a 3rd rounder and a 5th or a 6th rounder next year. That was kind of where my mind started. But I mean, if you're the Steelers and you're looking to get rid of them, then I think you do go down a little bit. But if you're looking for the best package, I feel like you start and end with, or you start with a 2nd round pick and you see where you can go from there, because I just think Diontae Johnson is worth that, quite honestly.
I agree. I don't know. You're interesting with the second pick. Like, if it's a 4th round and then you toss another pick in there, maybe you could have a conversation. I think I'm with you, though. I think 3rd round seems to be that sweet spot. I think you could get a 2nd. And I think that you could get, like, I'm going to toss it out there and people are going to say that I'm crazy, but just depending on how the board falls, like, I think that you could potentially convince the Kansas City Chiefs to make a move. And you might have to give up something more than Diontae Johnson. But if the end of the 1st round comes around, and I'm pretty positive the Chiefs still have their pick. I'm not 100% on that one, but I'm pretty sure that they still have their pick. If the Chiefs are rolling around at 32 and you're in talks and there are no real big splashy wide receivers left on the board, again, you might have to give up like one of those 4th round picks, but you could probably get the 32nd pick in the draft for them, and I'd feel pretty good. Again, it'd be a lot more difficult. You'd have to have those like serious talks. It's not just a straight yes for yes, but I think it could happen. 2nd round, I think, is easy. Like, I think, I've had people, Jim Wexell tossed it at me when I said that he could probably go for a 2nd round pick. He was like, well, what did they get for AB and Santonio Holmes? When Santonio Holmes left, he went for a 6th round pick, but at that point, there were just, everybody in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization was getting in trouble. The Steelers need to set an example. They would have traded Santonio Holmes for a bag of Pringles. They would have just been like, okay, sounds good. AB, 3rd round pick, I get that, but even when that was happening, I don't know what the bidding was like. I don't know how many teams were like, we want a guy who didn't show up to the stadium in week 17, who's got some issues. Maybe a 3rd rounder, I get that. I just don't think there's any chance you're going below a 3rd round. And if you're not offering maybe 2 4th rounders, I don't even think the Steelers consider it, because where do you go from there? Like, if you trade him for a 4th round pick, what are you doing? How are you replacing a guy like Diontae Johnson? Is it even possible? That's the question.
Well, I mean, it's possible, but it's costing you a lot more than, a 4th round pick or something like that.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're we're going to get into this in a minute, but like, if you're looking at the draft board, if you're looking at free agency, it is going to cost you a pretty decent like chunk of change or a draft pick, or a pretty high value draft pick, in order for you to get someone who's equivalent to Diontae Johnson's value, I think, to his production. Like, it's just not that simple to replace a guy like that. Like, I think the past couple of years have really colored people's view of Diontae, and I don't think that's his full potential. I think this is a guy who still is reaching his prime. And that's the thing. The other thing about a trade is that you're not just, like you said at the top, you're not just trading him to trade him. Like, they're not looking to get rid of Diontae Johnson. when they say they're open to a trade, it's open to a trade where we get something at least equal or of greater value than what Diontae Johnson would be to us on the field. And that is a pretty high bar to clear.
I agree. And I think, when it comes to what the Steelers could get and what teams are going to offer, I don't think anybody's sitting around. Like, I genuinely don't think a team that would trade for Diontae Johnson, because it's not like the Carolina Panthers are not trading for Diontae Johnson. It's going to be a team that is looking for a top wide receiver, a team like the Chiefs, a team like, I don't know. I don't follow other teams enough to know what ones are real bad at wide receiver, but possibly the Patriots, depending on, how their draft goes. And they're like, okay, we can need somebody to pair with Drake May or Jaden Daniels or whoever. You look at teams that need a wide receiver who believe in their quarterback and who believe in their offense. They do not look at this and say, we're getting the Diontae Johnson that spent 2 years with Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett and 3 years with Matt Canada. That's not the same guy that they're going to get. You're going to put him into a competent offense and immediately he's going to take off. Like, it's just what's going to happen. And I think people are going to view it like that. I think Omar Khan is going to push that in trade negotiations and say, look, we fired the quarterback that was supposed to be his starter, got benched. The second guy that was supposed to be his starter got benched, and we fired his offensive coordinator. I think that this guy's got some potential, and teams will bite. And I think that you could raise the bar. I mean, look at Chase Claypool went for a second round pick off of potential alone for a team that was looking for a wide receiver for their young quarterback. You can get this, and Chase Claypool, like Diontae Johnson, is head and shoulders above Chase Claypool and what Chase Claypool did in the NFL to that point, and has significantly less issues when it comes to being a problem in the locker room. Just that guy. It's easier than you think, I think.
Yeah, and I think there are, I don't know, like, to be honest, the Panthers are one of the first teams I thought of as could reach for, they're a team that's not paying out a bunch of big contracts. They have a young receiver, they're a young quarterback, that they might need to get up to speed. I feel like they're a team. The Patriots, I feel like the Cardinals too could just use.
Cardinals could definitely be, especially if they don't get Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right. I think the Jets also too. Like, that could be a team too who needs like another dynamic playmaker next to Garrett Wilson. Like, I feel like there are tons of teams that Diontae Johnson would fit onto almost seamlessly. Like, this is a guy who I think has experience and is a proven productive guy. I think especially if you're a team that is thinking about, okay, we could reach for a receiver in the first round, or we could get arguably more of a sure thing. I don't even think that's arguably. I think definitely more of a sure thing in Diontae Johnson than reaching for, Adonai Mitchell or Brian Thomas or someone at the very end of the first round, like you said with Kansas City too. That's an example that, like, the Bills are in the market for a wide receiver too. I don't know if they're necessarily an option there, but there are teams that need receivers and teams that might also not want to use a first round pick on it, like might not want to burn that draft capital on a receiver.
Yep. And I think depending on how the board falls, teams are going to be looking and they're going to be like, well, we needed a wideout. We didn't get one. Now we got to look elsewhere. And people will say, oh, well, it's a loaded draft class. The year that Marquise Brown and A.J. Brown and all these guys went for first round picks was a loaded draft class at wide receiver. That doesn't determine anything. It's about how it falls. It's about how the draft board falls. And you just never know.